Hi everyone, I have a project today for my 88 911 Targa. I just got this car less than a month ago, but the power seat lift switches are giving me trouble. So we're gonna fix that today. Um, I've done a couple of these videos. I haven't seen anything online that details all this in a video, so I'm gonna try to help you out. And maybe I'll do a couple more if this one works out okay. Thanks for watching.
Okay, I've removed the carpets, front and back. I've removed the seat all the way back so we can get to the front bolts. If you do the front bolts first, it's easier to move the seat all the way forward, more forward than the stops allow, and then you can get to the back. Here's our switches. Back goes up and down. Front tries to go up, doesn't go down at all. So we're gonna remove the front bolts first. Nothing special here, just socket, 6mm hex, loosen the bolt. There's the stop that keeps the seat from going forward, so when you remove that, then it lets the seat go forward, like this. The seat forward, now we have the two bolts in each side of the back, and they're way easier accessible with the seat further forward than it normally goes. We're on these back bolts. These are tight. And I actually stripped one on the passenger seat when I took it out. I had to drill it and extract it. So hopefully yours come out easy. These all came out easy. Then I use a ball hex to finish them out. Use your magnet probe to pull the bolt out. There is a washer in there. You can probably leave it there till the seat comes out, or you can extract it. There's no nuts, but there is a block. So it makes it easy to put back in again. Here's one of my bolts. It's pretty bad. I'm gonna order some new ones. I gotta get one for the one I drilled anyway, so I'll probably get a handful and replace the worst ones. This is not gonna come out again if I put it in. All right, so before we move the seat, I slid it back just a little because I didn't want the tracks in the back sticking way out, so I'd whack the paint with it. And I also reclined the seat because it comes out more vertically that way. You can tip it up and pull it out vertically, and you don't have to worry about dragging it across the paint. So I'm gonna pull it out and put it over on the bench so we can work on the switch. Here's the electrical connector. So I have the seat sitting up on the threshold. Right here's the connector. It's just gonna pop out. By the way, disconnect the battery before you do this. All right, here's the seat on the bench, upside down. I bagged the backrest so I don't tear it up somehow. Looks like someone's been into this before. These are some pretty heavy wire ties, so I think someone's had it apart, maybe replaced a motor or something like that. So the first thing we're gonna do is I'm gonna unhook these. I'm gonna take the wires off the motor that's giving me trouble. Although I know it whines because I can hear it try, but I'm gonna check it anyway with my 12-volt power supply and just make sure the motor turns both ways. Basically, you flip-flop the poles, so you have ground positive goes one way, and then you flip them and and it turns the other way. So it's easy to test that with a battery, or like I said, I have a power supply. All right, so I clip my wire ties right here. I'm gonna take the connector plate off this mount here so I can have access to it for my power supply. So these are the pins for the power supply, and I'll just use an ohm meter, figure out which ones are positive and negative, and then I'll put my power supply on that. All right, so I got the motor disconnected. This is the one that's giving me the problem. I already checked it the other way going up, and this is, or excuse me, down, this is up. And when you reverse polarity, it goes the other way. So I know the motor's working okay. Okay, so I've pulled the wires out. I've taken all the zip ties off so I can get some slack here, slid all this out, and now we're just gonna pop these switches out of this fascia
There's little tabs right here. Just push down on those. Now you can get this out. Now we're going to desolder. To get this switch apart, you have to desolder all these. I think the switch is the problem, but I'm going to do some ohmmeter checks here to make sure we got everything where it's supposed to be, and then in case someone messed with it, and then we'll proceed with the switch. All right, so once we have the switches out, red is positive. We see a red wire right here. We see a brown wire. We see a brown wire right here. So I just want to know which one is which, and just to make sure we don't have opens or something. So I got my red wire right there. Oop. There's that one. There's that one. So I know these are positives, these are negatives. So now we'll just hook up the power supply to each, and we'll do a little test. So I'm bridging my positive right there, and we'll bridge the negative. So now I got power to both sides, both switches, both motors. So there's the back, up and down, and there's front, and I know my front doesn't work. My front doesn't go down, it only goes up. That switch has a little bit of a problem in it. We'll maybe take that one apart too. So now we know it's a switch. I'm just gonna desolder this, clean the tabs as much as I can, and then they pop apart. We'll catch up. Okay, so we've desoldered. I took a photo of the switch beforehand so I know where all the wires go. So right there's a release, and same on the other side. So there's little springs and balls in here that are the detents for the switch. So you got to be a little careful when you take it apart, or all that stuff goes flying everywhere. So I just kind of like release them a little bit. It'll pop up. So that side's open. Flip it around, get the other side. And I'm not trying to take it apart yet. I just want to release the pins. Carefully take it off. This is why you got to make sure your pins are all clean of solder. Looks like I might have some crud right there. So we can get it off. That's what it looks like inside. And there's a little balls we didn't want to lose. So we don't need this anymore. We can set that aside. Here's where all the problems are. Looks like it's been hot. All right, so I'll just go in here and bend this side right here. There's two little tangs that hold that plate in there. Once you get it loose, you can take it out. So there's our contactor. It's pretty bad. And I'm gonna buff all this up. Let's use a piece of sandpaper here. This is like 400 grit sandpaper. 320. I'm going to use a brown Scotch-Brite to clean the contacts. Taking the edge of it and running it right there. Shine it up. It's not easy on your Scotch-Brite, by the way. A lot of hooks. Undo the back. Okay, I took these apart one at a time. Didn't want to, and I don't really have a good way to get in here, so I just kind of took my tool and just scraped the crud off. It just arc. There's a little bit of a divot in there. So I don't know how long this is going to last, but a new switch with harness is $125 from Pelican Parts. I feel like this is time well spent. Plus I learned how the thing works. All right, we'll take this one piece I took out, put it back in there. Get it back in the little slot that it sets in. This is the hardest part. And then I got a little screwdriver I did this with. You don't want it so tight that it binds, but you want to make sure it doesn't fall out of there. Nice and loose. All right, so now I'll proceed to this side, and then I noticed there's no grease in this one. One of the other ones had a little grease in it. Don't know if it's supposed to, but I will put just a tiny dab of silicone grease in there for this, just like a tensioner right here. And then the balls are all dry. I put all that back in dry because there's no grease in there for those right now. So we'll catch up on the reassembly. All right, I wanted to point something out here. This part of the lever contacts right here. So also polish that or scrape that. So I scrape that and I polish that so that all contacts together. So be sure and do those. Okay, ready for reassembly. Just take a little dab of silicone grease. Put it right in there. There's my springs and detent balls. All right, so where these tabs are right here, those are going to go down into this slot right here. This only goes on one way. But you don't want to do it twice because it's not going to work. All right, so I'm going to lower it. There's a problem with the balls. And the springs. I don't have a tweezer in my shop. Okay. So we're just going to carefully lower this in. You might have to help those tabs a little bit. Just get them started. failure. All right, so you see it all came apart. So this little post right here has that tiny little spring right in there. So it'll have to go back together again. We'll catch up later. All right, guys, I got a couple hints for you. See that white dot there? That's the fulcrum that those little balls and springs were in. That wants to fall away as you push this top on. It gets all screwed up because it pushes the bottom of the assembly away from that. So I just rolled up a couple of Post-it notes, folded them over and then rolled them up and stuffed those in there. And that really helped when I started putting pressure on the housing of the switch to keep it all lined up with that pin. Because if that pin gets off, then the balls aren't in the right place, you know, up inside there where their little rockers are, and then it's not going to go together. So I would recommend, and I'm going to do it for the next one, I'm just going to put those in right away and then reassemble. It was way easier. I had a lot more trouble with this one than the first one I did. First one went right together. So this one I had to come up with some new schemes. Little helpful hip there. So what I'm going to do now is set up with clip leads from the switch into the seat and make sure it works before I solder it back all together again. So we'll have that set up next. All right, so here we are. I got my clip leads all run into the wires before we solder. Got the power supply on. We're just gonna check switches. So I know this one kind of worked before, so we're gonna check it. So that one still works, we're good. And then here's the one we just rebuilt. We're 100% there. I think I'm gonna take this other one apart because it's got a little finicky to it, and I don't wanna take the seat out again. So I think I'll just go ahead and fix that one while we're at it. So the next step will be to solder this back in. I'm just using a soldering iron or a soldering gun to do that. You don't have to worry about it getting hot. I mean, you don't want to get it too hot because it's plastic, but so far I haven't had any problem with it. So that'll be the next step. We'll catch up on reassembly and then reinstall the seat. All right, here we are. Switches are done, resoldered. Kind of final check before we put the seat back in. All right, both are working great. So these just pop back in, like so. And then you pull all the wires back through, zip tie back up, reassemble the connector, and it'll be ready to go back in the car. Okay, finished product. One note about the harness connector underneath the seat. The wires come in from the center of the car, not the left side of the car. So if you have them flip-flopped, my symptom was when I hit the up button, the seat went down. So I knew the voltage was wrong. And then this one didn't work at all because the pins didn't line up to that one. So just remember, harness comes in from this side, from the center of the car. But pretty happy. Everything's working. I can finally get the seat down to where I need it since I'm 6'3". Thanks. Hope I helped somebody.